Hi, my name is Emily from Second Harvest Food Bank of East Tennessee, and today we are going to make a chicken pot pie casserole. So we are going to start off with our onions. So we're just going to peel the outer layer, which is the brown part. Awesome. And then first we're going to take our knife and we're going to cut off the ends of the onion first, so that it has a nice flat surface to work with. And then we're going to cut it straight through the middle. And then we're going to take it and we're going to turn it this way and cut this way. And then we're going to take it afterwards and cut it this way. So I'll show you. So we're just going to make little slits. And then we're going to turn it and chop it. All right. So before we begin, you just want to make sure that you're washing your hands and that you're cleaning your counter space off. So we did that before we began, and we made sure to wash all of our vegetables with water. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with this one. So we're just cutting little slits. All right, and then turn it and cut it. All right, and then we have a little piece left. So we're just going to chop it. All right, awesome. So we got our onion all chopped. And we're just going to add that to our pot. And so in our pot is 1 tablespoon of canola oil. And canola oil is just a good cooking oil to use. So after that, we are going to take our butternut squash. Now don't be intimidated by our squash, but it does look a little tricky. So I chose a smaller squash just because it's easier to deal with, but it really is a delightful vegetable. So what you want to do first is you want to cut off your ends. And this is an activity that only adults should use, especially when, and then cut off the other end. And then we're just going to cut it in half so that it's easier to deal with. Okay. So now we are going to take our potato peeler, and you can also use your knife for this, but this makes it a lot easier, and just peel the skin off. And as you can see, you just want to make sure that you're cutting not towards yourself, but away. So we're going to cut towards the cutting board so that we're not going to harm ourselves in this process, because the skin is pretty tough. And so again, we're cutting away from ourselves. And it's actually pretty fun to do. It's a good stress reliever. Okay. So after we're done with that, we're going to set our skin aside. We want to cut it in half one more time. And so when you look on the inside, you're going to have this goopy, fun, it looks like the inside of a pumpkin during Halloween. So you do want to scoop it out. So take any kind of spoon that you have, and you're just going to scoop out the insides and discard it. All right, and so it's nice and clean. So now we're just going to take it, put it down, and we're going just to cut it into cubes. So first, I just like to slice it. And you can make this as small or as big as you like. And then you're going to take it and just cut it into small little pieces. Now again, you want to make sure that you're aware of where your fingers are at all times. And if this seems intimidating to you, what you can do instead of using your butternut squash and your kale, you could just use 4 cans of any type of vegetable that you like. So if you want to use carrots and peas, or if you want to use carrots and green beans, or anything like that, you're more than welcome to use that. That is great. Just make sure to drain off any of the juices and rinse it off. Okay, so we're going to finish chopping this up. So we're going to add this to our pot as well, but we're going to finish chopping this up and we will be right back. Okay, so we have chopped all of our butternut squash and it is in our pot. So we have 1 tablespoon of canola oil in here, and then we have 1 onion chopped and 1 butternut squash chopped, and this is on medium-high heat. So we're just going to let this saute a little bit and cook down some. So now we're going to start working on our kale. So whenever you get kale, it does have this spiny stem that you can eat, but it is kind of tough to chew, so it just depends on if you want to eat it or not. So if you want to eat it, all you have to do is chop off the bottom part of it and then just chop it into pieces. But if you're not super into it, what you can do is you fold it in half just like this, and then you're just going to take your knife and cut right along the ends of the stem. So I'll show you. And it's actually kind of fun to do. So all the leaves have come off from the stem and you can just discard that. And then, so what we want to do is just to give this a rough chop. So it doesn't have to be anything too precise, but you also don't want an entire leaf of kale whenever you're trying to eat your chicken pot pie casserole. All right, and so we have 4 cups of butternut squash in here, and then we're going to add 4 cups of our kale to that once this is sauteed for a few minutes. And then we will add some more things. Okay, and I'm going to finish chopping our kale and we will be right back. Okay, so now our onion has turned a clear color, so we have gone ahead and added our kale to it. So to that we're going to start adding our spices. So we have 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of sage, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder. Now if you don't have one of those spices, it's okay. You can still make the recipe without it. I would say what's most important is going to be your sage and your salt and pepper. So, okay, and so now that we have that, we are going to add our liquid. So this is 2.5 cups of chicken broth, but you can use your chicken stock or whatever you would like, as well as 1 cup of milk. So we're just going to add that to it. Okay, good. And we're just going to give it a good stir, make sure that our spices are nice and combined and not just clumped up in one area. So you do want to cook this down a little bit until your kale starts to look a little wilty, but it doesn't have to be fully cooked because it will cook all the way in the oven. So now that that's well combined, we're going to add our 2 tablespoons of butter. And so we're just going to let that cook down until our butter is completely melted. Now while that's going on, we're going to prepare our casserole dish. So this is a 13 by 9 casserole dish, and we're going to take our 1 tablespoon of butter. And this is a great activity for any type of kid. And what you're going to do is you're just going to grease it. So you're just going to slide it all down the sides, down the middle, until all of the entire casserole dish has butter on it. So this is going to make for a tasty crust with our brown rice. Okay, and then it also prevents anything from sticking, so has a lot of good benefits. Now, if you don't want to use butter, you don't have to. You can use your oil instead, or you can use a cooking spray if you would like to, if you're avoiding dairy, or if you just would rather have a different type of oil. That's totally fine. Perfect. So that is nice and smeared. So we're going to take our 1 cup of rice and we're just going to make a crust. So we're just going to sprinkle it evenly on the bottom of the crust. And this is also a great activity for kids to do. And I like using brown rice, but if you would prefer to use white rice, that's fine. Just brown rice is going to have a little extra fiber, which helps you feel full, as well as it has a little more vitamins than your white rice does. Okay, so now it is evenly spread out. Let's check our mixture. All right, we're gonna give it one more stir to make sure that the butter is incorporated in all and our spices are in there. All right, looks good to me. So last thing that we're going to add is one 12-ounce can of chicken. So we're just gonna use juices and all. And we're just going to stir that in so that it's nice and incorporated. And maybe try to chop up your chicken a little bit. So the butternut squash, because it is great because it kind of tastes or smells like a cantaloupe. So it has this nice sweet smell and flavor to it. And the kale is also just a really good green hearty vegetable. Okay, so everything is well combined. So after that, all that we have to do is take our pot and we're just gonna pour our mixture on top of our rice. Okay, so just spread out your mixture so that in each piece, everybody's gonna get a little bit of kale, a little bit of butternut squash, a little bit of chicken, and of course, a little bit of rice that's at our bottom. Okay. So now that it's nice and spread out, what we're going to do is take some aluminum foil and you just want to cover it so that that your rice soaks up all the juices and it makes it nice and moist. So we're just gonna cover it just like this. And we're gonna put this on the oven at 425 and we're just going to bake it for an hour. So this is a great recipe that if you want to prepare it the night before and then just pop it into the oven for an hour, then you're good to go. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. And so after an hour, you will have your chicken pot pie casserole. Thank you.